So you see a circle with 5 steps to develop a mindful moment. And we're going to start at the 12 o'clock, which is step 1, or regrouping. In step 1 in regrouping, all you're trying to do is bring your awareness back to the present moment. And it sounds very simple, but it's actually incredibly difficult, especially in American culture, because we are constantly bombarded with stimuli. Even if we don't have our cell phone attached to us and vibrating and doing all sorts of craziness, we have all sorts of noises and sounds that are distracting us. We also believe in the myth of multitasking, and I mean that deliberately. It is a myth that human beings can multitask. To remind myself of this, I actually have this coaster. Okay, so it just reads my multitasking, screwing up several things at once. And it reminds me, as it sits on my desk, sits on my computer every day, that, you know what, be present in this moment now, so that you can actually be most effective in this moment now. So regrouping typically requires some type of trigger, and you may need to reflect a little bit on when during the day you most need to regroup. One example for me was before I entered every exam room when I was a primary care provider. I knocked, and I would knock on the door, and then I would enter. But before I knocked, that was my trigger, my body trigger to actually stop and regroup. And I would tell myself, be present with this patient now. And then I would knock, and I would go in. And right after I started that practice, I was more fully aware. I was picking up much more information and subtext with my patients, and actually better able to listen and give better care as a result of that. Another strategy that I started doing was when I transitioned from work to home. I have two boys, and when I would pick them up from work, and they'd be chattering away, and I'd be thinking about dinner and everything else I needed to get done that night, and I would find myself really clenching on the steering wheel. So before I would put it into reverse to back out of wherever I was picking the kids up, I would take a moment before shifting. I would take a moment and take a breath and say, be here now. You're now transitioning from work to home. And then I'd put it in reverse and move on with my day. I wasn't always a success. I am not always as successful at that in transitioning to home, but it's certainly a practice that's helped me try to be present in that moment. So that for you, there may be different cues during your day to regroup. It may be when you come back from lunch. It may be when you're washing your hands, right? So as you're washing your hands, you say, I am here right now, touching my hands. I feel this, so I am present in this moment now. And that's all you do with regroup. Staying in that moment is actually what we're going to be talking about next. So in the second step, called release, or with the 5 R's that we're walking through, that release means to let go of distractions. That is incredibly hard because, again, we've got all these messages, both internally and externally, that are sort of bombarding us. But that release effort is so that you can you can let go of anything that's distracting you or taking you away from the present moment. And the way to do that is to not say, okay, I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm not thinking of anything else, because of course that'll make you think of something else. But it's to notice the thought, the intrusive thought, noise, sensation. Say thank you and let it go. The trick with release is to catch and release rather than to catch and hang on, right? So that release is a very deliberate mental practice to do. So if you think about what those distracting thoughts or worries that you might have that come into your day, you can use the regroup of I am present now. And as an intrusive thought comes in, say thank you and let it go. And we're going to practice all these in just a moment. Now remember, that never means your brain is empty, because our brains are never empty. So that release thing you're going to do all the time. You're going to do it over and over and over and over and over again. That doesn't make you wrong. That just makes you human. All right, so that's totally normal. The third step is called rebalancing. And it's for me, it's probably the hardest. And rebalancing means that you're releasing judgment. And that means releasing judgment of yourself and others. And maybe you don't do this, and kudos to you if you don't. But very often the inner critic in our head is incredibly noisy, incredibly chattery, and casting judgments upon everyone and everything all day long. And as we get more connected with the present moment, and we hear that distracting thought, and we let it go, if there's a judgment that's attached to it, or the judgment comes after it, that too you must practice letting go of. Because remember, being mindful is present here and now, present in the moment, without judgment of self and others. And this step will get you there. And it may take you thousands and thousands of releasing and rebalancing cycles to quiet that inner critic voice, and then do it again the next day. And that's okay. That inner critic is intended to be there cognitively as a protection for us, but it's actually more of a distraction now in our lives. So to put this all together, I'm going to ask us to do something. I'm going to ask us to do a very deliberate breathing technique that will allow us to practice mindfulness. I'm not calling it meditation. Some people do. When I describe these concepts to people who practice yoga, they're like, oh yeah, I totally get this. This is how we do our breathing in and out as it relates to the poses. And those things are great. Some people do this with prayer. All of those avenues of getting to a mindful moment are fantastic. I'm just going to teach you another one, and you can decide if it works for you. So the way we do this is by following those R's. So we want to regroup, right? So you're going to get your feet on the ground, uncross, both feet on the ground. Get your spine straight and comfortable. Some folks will choose to recline. Some folks will choose to sit up. And put your hands in a comfortable place. For most people, it's not like this. But if it is, that's okay. I like to keep my hands crossed like this. I like to feel the connection. And then I have them sit comfortably in my lap. All right? So if we feel our feet on the ground, and we know we're here now, feet on the ground. Now, we're going to release any thoughts that come in. And we're going to do this by focusing on our breath. To focus on our breath, we're going to breathe in for 7, we're going to hold for 4, and we're going to exhale for 8. All right? So if we're focusing on our breathing, then anything that's not focusing on breathing would be considered a distraction, and we'll just practice saying thank you and releasing it. And the next noise that might come is some judgment upon yourself or others, which you would say thank you and release. And just keep returning to the breath. The hardest part about this is we can't breathe the way we usually breathe throughout the day doing this exercise, because we usually breathe like this, maybe a little slower. But to be able to breathe in for 7, you're really going to have to belly breathe, okay? So adjust your pants if you need to, and know that your chest is going to rise, your belly is going to expand, and you're going to exhale it out. I'm going to do the count, but if your counting is a little bit different, that's fine. If you can't hold it for as long, that's fine. You want to find a position that's and a breathing pace that's comfortable for you. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to model the breathing, and I'm going to also be telling you what I'm thinking on the inside, so you can see the inside of me while I'm doing this breathing. All right. So it looks something like this. I feel my feet on the floor. My spine is straight. And I'm going to start breathing in. I wonder how weird I look. Do my eyelids look funny? You think that the camera actually adds 10 pounds? Oh my God. Did I really just think that? Are you serious? You can't even breathe one breath in front of everybody else? Okay, try again. I almost made it. Cool. What is that noise? Okay, so it's totally normal that we all do that. The conversation in our head is going all the time. And you just release what you hear and try and meet your thoughts with loving kindness. You practice loving kindness to yourself, you're much more able to practice that same loving kindness to others. So now I'm going to do it. We're all going to do it together. Now I close my eyes. That is a comfort for me. Okay, it just reduces distractions for me. You do not have to close your eyes if you don't want to. You decide. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to count 7 in, count 4 to hold, and exhale 8 out. And we're going to do 3 breaths together. The first 2 I will count. The third I will do in silence. Okay? So find your position. And here we go. Breathe in for 7. Hold for 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in for 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold for 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, One more in silence. Good. Just take a minute. Just feel. How do you feel on the inside? How do you feel on the outside? Do you think that maybe you could take on, or you could handle the stress of your day just a little bit better from this place than where you were maybe when you started watching this video? You consider it. Try it for yourself. But I can tell you for me, and for millions of people who meditate on a regular basis or practice mindfulness on a regular basis, derive significant efficacy and effectiveness benefits from it.